In this lesson, we're going to continue pick up from where we left off in the last lesson, which was our structural modeling. So we created some basic external walls after setting up our virtual studio using some simple spline and edit poly techniques. As you can see, I've actually finished off the external walls and tidied up a few mistakes by deleting this end wall because I feel like it's going to be easier to do it separately. As you can see that both sides of the building has pitched roofs, so I'll create these as a separate object. The first thing we're going to do is continue with the roof spline that we created. You can see in the front view we have it selected. It's not very visible, so there it is, the light green spline. Same technique as before. I've just gone through and just drawn over in general where I want the spline to be. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. We're not going to see this side, so we'll just leave that as it is. So this is our main point that we're actually going to be looking at in the visuals we're creating. We don't have to worry about the top of the ceiling because we're not doing the outside of the building. So after creating the basic spline outline, I've created a spline that matches. It follows the edge of the external wall, basically, has the correct angles, and then what we're going to do, oh apologies, that was my fault, you'll see that the line needs to have a sweep modifier applied. We're going to use a sweep, pick custom selection, and we're going to pick our roof spline, and as you can see, the roof now it has a pitched roof and it follows the same path as our walls. However, it is in the wrong place. So basic as before, we're just going to move it along to where it needs to be, and we'll go to this end and we'll select just the roof and just a roof spline so nothing else is in the way. We'll move that in the X, and we will snaps from that corner to that corner, and now our roof is in the correct place. So that's quite simple, but the next thing we need to do is delete the roof where we don't need it. So if we look in the top view and we make that invisible, we don't need our roof past this point, so we can add an edit poly onto there. And luckily we've already got this break in the model at the right position, so we'll select all of these but not this end piece, and we can delete them. We'll make it visible again, and this should make it a bit easier. We'll select this and we'll ring around there, which is select all of the edges in a ring around the model, and we will split that in half with a connect, and that'll just put one loop through there. Oh, apologies, we'll go back, we'll do that again because it hasn't done underneath, and we'll ring both of them and we'll hit connect, and that should put one loop through everything, which now enables me to break the edge off the roof there, and we can just tidy this up with a couple of bridges as we did before. So we can select these two faces and bridge that, and that'll give us our poly back. And then for this piece, we're not going to see it, so we'll just cap it anyway, just to make sure that it's finished off. And that's our roof done. So the next thing we need to do are the internal walls. So we'll put our roof on a roof layer, and we'll hide that so it's not in the way, and we'll hide. I always keep all of my splines and any helpers that I create on separate layers, so they're not always visible, but if I ever need them I can unhide the layers and I can get a quick reference. So my door would be considered a helper. It's a helper shape, so I can hide that. My roof spline is a spline that I've swept from using the sweep modifier, so it'll be the same thing for when I create the windows later on when I add some more detail in. So we'll hide those for now so they're not in the way. We can probably hide the external walls too, and as you can see, Using a spline, I've drawn around the edges of the external walls and given us a basic floor plate, and I've kept the top face of the floor plate at 0 and extruded down from there. So then it means that everything I model will now sit on top of the floor correctly, so I don't have to worry about trying to snap things or move things up and down. It should all sit perfectly. I'm going to isolate the elevation, and the first thing I'm going to do, apologies, I'm going to unisolate that. I'm going to isolate both plans and elevation, and in the top view I am going to draw a box, or create a box, sorry, that should have the correct thickness. I've made that on a wrong layer, so I'll just put it on default to begin with. That way we can see it. And then in the front view, we know we're somewhere good as well when we're around here. So now we can unhide our external walls again. Unisolate our external walls. I didn't hide them. And using snaps, we can just line this up in the Y, and then we will turn that, convert it to an editable poly. There's no point in adding a modifier because we're not going to adjust it after this. I will snap that to the edges, inside edges of the wall. So there should be no gaps now. Right, the next thing we need to do is to add the pitch. So we'll just connect straight down the middle, and then from there we will select the top 2 polygons and we will extrude them up. Just a random height. We'll just do 1000 just so we can see. Now what we need to do to create a pitch is target weld these outside verts, or if you don't want to do that, you can select all 3 verts and hit collapse, and that will always collapse it to the center. Or if you didn't have the middle vert and you selected the outside 2 verts, it would still collapse it to the center. So there's 2 different ways of collapsing your geometry to create a triangular top. And in the front view now, we can just select that center vertex and lift it up to where we want it to be. Now we know this is just there or thereabouts. We can unhide the roof and see whether we're getting everything in the right place or to the right heights. We can snap to there and we can see that that's not correct, so we'll snap across to the edge of the ceiling and we'll snap these up to the top of the walls. The roof could probably be in a slightly better place, so we'll just snap it across there for now, overlap it, and we can fix the edge of the wall later. But all we need to do is seal the roof from any light getting in, and we'll snap this just to match there. Now we can hide the roof again and we can go into top view. Now that overlaps the wall, so on this side we'll probably just move the wall, but from the reference images and we look inside, the roof does go over the top of the wall. There's actually a little ledge you can see in between the wall and the ceiling. It doesn't actually touch the roof. So whilst that overlaps, what we can do is we can cut through here and do a connect, and we can use edge constraint, and we can drag that across in the X to snap with this corner of the wall. And the edge constraint means that it will always follow its own edges and it won't make any geometry stick out where it shouldn't. And we can see now just how offset the actual house is. So we can do the same thing here. We can connect through, and keeping edge constraint on, we can grab this and snap to the same place from there. Oh, apologies, I just want to make sure I'm snapping from the right edge. So now that should be the correct height, and we can delete. We'll isolate this, and what I need to do now is, so we don't have any overlapping geometry, because that can cause problems and I personally just don't like it, I can grab these two edges and bridge and select that and cap. And now we have our pitched walls that fill in the end of our house. And the next thing is just a case of copying and pasting, or sorry, just dragging and copying and matching them wherever they should go in here. So as you can see that, we can just pull it to where it needs to be and adjust the thickness to match. But the last thing I'll show is, like we did with the walls, now we've created this geometry, and you know that there's a little ledge above the roof. We can attach these together, and we can grab these polygons on both sides of both. Obviously we would have 5 or 6 of these throughout the building, so this will work on connecting all of them, and we can then bridge that, and that now gives us the geometry we need above the wall. So hopefully that's been a little help of how to get more detailing into it, again without using dimensions and just using what we have, following some drawings and some simple modeling techniques. And as we said, we can just continue this down, attach them all, make sure they're in the correct place to the plan, and you've got all of your internal walls modeled using simple spline and edit poly techniques again. And next time we're going to take a look at adding more architectural detail, but not necessarily for the structure, for windows and doors, and using the sweep modifiers again and splines, and seeing how that can help us in the future when we come to texturing as well. Just little points to remember. So yeah, keep watching. Thank you.